Welcome to the desert of the real.
Taylor, man, that's crazy, man. That bugged me out that little young brother got killed, man. You know, I really thought that he was good. When I seen an uncle in his life like that, I was like, that's great. This is one of those kids that's going to get turned around and get his life together. And here it is. Like I said, the streets will beat you every time, man. What you instill in your children, the streets will battle up against that so quick and change it. It's ridiculous.
Did you see what I posted on your page?
When?
Today, in regards to that?
No, I didn't get it.
Let me read it to you.
All right.
I said the problem with beating a child is that it is a desperate tactic utilized too late in the game. If you speak to parents who actually knew how to raise, behaved, and well-managed children, I would imagine their stories of having to whoop some ass are few and far between. Personally, I've never had to do more than pop a child on the hand with my finger. That is the extent of my physicality with children. I'm an adult. They are a child. If I don't have the brain power to guide a less experienced individual in the proper direction, then what the hell do I think a belt is going to do? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes when it is justified, you might need to get into that ass. But remember, it has and always will be a tactic and not a principle. Just my opinion for what it's worth. And basically, the same thought went through my head when I saw it, like the first video. That kid was how old? He was a teenager?
He was 16 at that time, I think.
The belt's too late. Too late for the belt.
I believe he was getting the belt all the time. I believe that he probably was getting the belt all the time, but he was just one of those kids that just caught up in peer pressure. And we all know peer pressure.
That alone kind of confirms my point. If he was getting beat all this time and he still went out there or still got caught up,
right,
then we got to reevaluate how we do things.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, first of all, the whole beating thing, we already know the science behind that. Where do we get that from? You know, I posted it up on Facebook on one of the person's threads where they was talking about, beating the child and this is this and they need a good beating and da-da-da. And I posted up the scene from Roots. You mean like Toby?
Yeah.
Toby needed a beating too?
Exactly.
Right.
You know, we need to start thinking with our minds. Whenever you resort to physicality, that's always the last resort. If you ever read The Art of War, they say when the war gets to the point where now you got to get physical, then everything is broken down. That's the absolute last resort. And it's the resort that nobody really wants.
Right.
You know? So when you're dealing with a child, the problem is we have a lot of adults who aren't really educated themselves, and then you're going to try to raise a child and educate that child, and we don't know how to do conflict resolution. You know, conflict resolution for a black person is I punch you in your motherfucking face.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You get shot or something like that.
That is it. I'll punch you in your motherfucking face.
You know, we really gotta evaluate the way that we do things, because if we doing something, what they say the definition of insanity is
repeating the same thing over and over.
Repeat the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
you know,
expecting different results.
But at 16, 15, 16, all that other stuff, if you reaching for the belt and putting your and you gotta lay hands, you late in the game, man. You late in the game. There was a lot of shit that should have went on before that even happened. And like I said, when you have parents who know how to raise children and well-behaved, managed children who ain't outside wilding out, because that wilding out thing, that's not the child's fault. If the child is wilding out in the apartment, what the hell you think you're gonna do when you get him out in the public?
For sure. That's for sure. If you wilding out in the apartment, then your ass totally your ass is totally not doing your job. You know what I'm saying? I can understand the situation because when I was a teenager, I was probably the most respectful kid you would ever know, y'all. But when I got out of my mother and father and neighborhood's eyes, well, I was a totally different person. You know what I'm saying? Because the peer pressure was so strong out there. You know what I'm saying? But
when you was with your mother and your father, you wasn't doing that.
No, that wasn't going down, bro. That wasn't going down. That wasn't. I tell you what happened to me when I was in high school. We sitting down in the living room, and my mother's on one side, my father's on one. That's when he had the floor model color TV, and I'm sitting in the middle, and they bring on, at the time, New York City, the gang of the Decepticons was running rampant. They happened to be in the train station when we was there, and I was a member of the Decepticons back then. They blew up my face and was like, "This is Andre Carter. He's one of the members and the head leaders of the Decepticons." And so I'm sitting there like, "Oh, snap!" I looked at my mother, my father said, "You a leader of the Decepticons, huh?" So I put you like this. My Decepticon days was lo and behold hidden after that. People trick you. Yo, you know how ill that is to be sitting between your parents and they blow your face up on the news like, yeah, this dude right here. I was like,
but you know what's crazy though? This is the reality. Well, all you gotta do is look back to when we was children and look at the things that we did, right?
Yes, sir.
So what makes us think that you're a child, you don't know about the world, you want to discover, you're curious, you know what I'm saying? But we managed to survive.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So what it is ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to instill those values into your child, teach them, critical thinking and whatever, and then you got to let them live. You got to trust that they are going to be, are able to look after themselves and use some common sense. You have to. There's no other alternative than you having to trust them. Mm-hmm. There's none. Because, like this situation with this kid, they might have been on some old extra disciplinary stuff where they was watching every move that he ever made, and look where it ended up.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, you got to do what you do. You train them. You try to teach them to the best of your ability, and then they have to go out there and interact with this world. And that's a rough thing as a parent because you don't have any control.
Yeah, it's crazy because I just went through a situation earlier this week where one of my good friend's son, I don't know if you heard about the cop that got killed here in New York City, but his son was one of the guys that they locked up for the killing of that cop. 22 years old. His life is going to be over here in New York. You know what I'm saying? Because of being with the wrong crowd. Following behind people that's going to do something. He wasn't the shooter, and but
ain't that a shame? Like you one day you just going over to your friend's house playing, Medal of Honor, then the next minute you in a prison.
You in the prison, locked up, with no bail. And the minimum that the lawyers are asking is $25,000-$30,000, and that's a waste of money because you're going against New York State, New York City, New York State. They ain't on a cop killing. They ain't trying to. It's just like the Feds. We always get our man. If you was there, you done.
Let's put it this way: the mayor of New York City locked up the guy who won the Super Bowl for him. So your black ass is done.
Right.
Yeah.